Um, I feel so awkward reading, on a TED stage, but here I am doing it because that's what they wanted me to come, and this is what I have, people. But I'm going to read 2 chapters from my book, and the first one I read, I'm so excited to do it because it was just something that I felt like the general population might not really appreciate, but a TED audience would. And so I will read it to you. And basically, the conceit of the book is that, and this really did happen, I got a month off from my family. It was the most exciting thing that ever happened to me. My daughter went to sleepaway camp for a month. She was 12 then, and my husband went away on business for a month, except that he came home for 3 or 4 days during the month. But I got this whole month to just, for the first time in 12 years, not have to be at someone's beck and call, and it was fantastic, I have to say. And during that time, I wrote this book where I went back and figured out how I got there and how I assembled this family, which was a little bit different. So that's basically the idea of the book. And this chapter is called Svexy, and it takes place on one of the days that my husband is home from his business trip. During one of these days, I came home from the grocery store only to find Michael missing. I figured he must have gone out. I sat down in a chair on the back porch and relaxed, reading for about 15 minutes. My heart nearly hopped out of my chest when he stood up from the middle of some bushes, only a few feet away, holding an insect that he had been quietly watching. It was a Digger Wasp, a bug of the genus Sphex. Before I met Michael, the only scientists I knew were characters in movies. And the first movie we saw together as a couple was at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. We saw The Lady Eve by Preston Sturges, and in it, Henry Fonda plays Henry Pike, a scientist of the naive and bumbling variety. Scientists aren't really like that, Michael said. I nodded in agreement, but inside I thought, really? Now that we live together, I will point out to you that Michael has a butterfly net and a magnifying glass near the back door, and his emergence from the bushes after a long, quiet stillness is not atypical. I don't know why it still surprises me, but no, he's nothing like the Henry Pike character in The Lady Eve. This is the Digger Wasp, Michael told me with enthusiasm. You know, the insect that Daniel Dennett, a philosopher and scientist at Tufts University, refers to when he argues against the existence of free will. Oh, right, I said. What was that about again? This wasp makes a little nest to lay her eggs. To feed her offspring, she kills another insect by paralyzing it, dragging it into her nest, and then the Digger Wasp babies feed off the paralyzed insect very slowly until it dies. Oh, God, I said. Suddenly, an image popped in my head. It was of my daughter, Milan, and me just before she left for summer camp. We were in a Walgreens drugstore late at night. I was so exhausted I could barely see straight. Milan was full of energy and enthusiasm, and as we walked down aisle after aisle, she found things she needed to buy for camp. My slow, discombobulated slouch, behind her forceful determination to pluck just the right items off the shelves, made me imagine that we had a tube connecting us, and in this tube, all my chi, all my life force was slowly flowing into her. The more energetic she appeared and was, the increasingly tired I felt. I was the insect being fed upon. No, Michael said patiently, not like that at all. It's because of this programmed behavior that the Digger Wasps have when they kill their prey. Oh, I said. You see, Michael went on, the Digger Wasp have this ritual they perform where they leave their paralyzed prey outside the nest and go in and inspect it before coming out and dragging the victim back in. But if the experimenter moves the prey, the Digger Wasp will quickly find it and bring it back. But here's the thing, it begins the ritual again. Uh-huh, I said, marveling at his enthusiasm. Which is what again? The wasp goes into the nest and inspects it again, like the first time never happened, Michael said. In fact, an experimenter can do this unlimited times, and the wasp will do the same thing every time. Oh, I said, slowly putting it all together. I guess the idea is that seemingly premeditated behavior is really just mindless repetition that has evolved in the brain of the wasp, Michael helpfully explained. The opposite of free will, I said. Yes, the opposite of free will, he said. I turned and went into the kitchen. I automatically began to unload the dishwasher, but then, because I was thinking about the concept of free will, I decided to stop. Then I decided to have a glass of wine, which is what I always do when I realize I'm automatically emptying the dishwasher. Okay, thank you. This is from the chapter called Starter Gods, and it's all about Santa Claus. When I thought about Santa Claus in the abstract, the myth's connection to my childhood, the joy of the festive images and the presents and the tree and all the folklore, it was great. It was a part of the seasonal fun of being a parent and being a kid. But then, when it came to the reality of it, to what you had to do to create this magical mystery, I balked. I felt incapable of peering into Milan's sweet, open, naive, trusting eyes and lying to her. I was her protector, her overseer, and this rankled me deeply. I just couldn't do it. Since Milan was only 2 for her first Christmas with me, it was easy to just skip it all. When she was 3, Santa was around, but he was just art. His cheerful image was on things, but I didn't feel compelled to explain him. And she wasn't in school yet, so I didn't have to deal with other kids' expectations and assumptions either. By the time Milan turned 4, however, I had changed my mind. I felt I was cheating her out of a great holiday tradition and this wonderful feeling of magic and the remarkable characters and stories of her culture. I mean, come on, it was fun. Why was I such a stick in the mud? I didn't realize that it was actually kind of late to introduce a kid to the concept of Santa Claus. At this age, she was already a person with some critical thinking skills, and when I began to tell her about Santa, I just ended up scaring the hell out of her. Because I had dithered in my mind about how to say it, I delayed and didn't end up telling her about Santa until Christmas Eve. That year we were alone. It was just the 2 of us in Los Angeles. We had a tree and a few presents, but I kept most of her gifts hidden in a closet so that Santa Claus could bring them out. So finally, just before bed, I said, "Oh, Milan, I need to tell you something. There is this guy, his name is Santa Claus, and frankly, he's been watching you." She looked terrified. Maybe that wasn't the best way to begin. She asked, "When?" I said, "He can see you all the time. He's sort of like invisible, but he watches you, and he knows if you've been a good girl or not." Her face showed deep concern. She said, "Yeah?" I said, "And well, he, based on your behavior over the last year, which in my opinion has been pretty good, well, based on that, he is going to come into our house tonight while we're asleep and bring some presents and put them under our tree." "What?" Milan cried. "I know," I said. "How is he going to get in our house?" she asked. "Well, he comes down the chimney, through the fireplace." "What? Why? Why doesn't he just come in the front door?" "Because he's magic?" I smiled and shrugged. "So," Milan said flatly. "Well," I said, "it's his traditional way because he's magic but if he's magic, he should just make the presents appear there under the tree." "I know," I said, "that is a really good point. It's just his way," I scrambled. Milan's face filled with terror thinking about this. She actually began to shake. "I'm not sleeping alone tonight," she cried. I ended up letting her sleep with me. She had a hard time falling asleep, and every sound made her wake and grab for me in fear. There was nothing about it that was fun or good or least of all magical. It was just horrible. In the morning while she was asleep, I put the presents under the tree. I came into the bedroom and gently woke her. I said, "Hey, let's go in the living room and see if Santa came." She sucked in a loud and fearful gulp of air. "No!" she yelled. "Mommy, no!" I had to lift her out of the bed, kicking and screaming. I had never seen her so afraid and deeply disturbed. The point is, I didn't do a very good job with Santa Claus. Maybe because I felt like such a failure in this department, I began to resent the whole idea of Santa Claus even more. It became so obvious to me that Santa was just a starter god. It was just a way to ease a kid into the idea that was supposed to be taken even more seriously later. Even so, I kept things up for the next 2 years. At 6, Milan lost a tooth, and I realized I had to go through the whole thing again with the tooth fairy. This too traumatized Milan. I explained calmly, there's a woman, and if you leave your tooth under your pillow tonight, while you're sleeping during the night, she will come in your room and take your tooth and leave you money. What? Milan's eyes bugged out. Yes. Milan looked at the tooth in her hand, her prized possession. What does she want the teeth for? Milan asked. Well, I don't know exactly. She just wants them and she's willing to pay for them. She takes the tooth from under my pillow while I'm asleep? I could see where we were headed. She's very small, I said. She's a fairy. She's a teeny fairy. She's gonna fly in by magic. Like a wasp? Milan said. I resisted the impulse to say, no, she's actually a Catholic. Well, how much does she give you for your tooth? Milan said, looking at her tooth. She didn't know if she was willing to part with it. I don't know, 50 cents maybe? 50 cents? Milan said skeptically. She scrunched up her nose, suggesting the question, what could you get for 50 cents? Or $1 or $2, I said, upping the price. I hadn't accounted for inflation. I couldn't remember what I had gotten. The tooth fairy idea was not going over well. Well, I don't want anyone flying into my room and going under my pillow while I'm sleeping tonight, Milan stated with reason. If a fairy is coming into my room tonight and going under my pillow, well, that's scary. So I'll do it, but I want to sleep with you. Milan was always very good at leveraging new information into a bargain for what she really wanted. It occurred to me that if Santa Claus was a starter god in general, the tooth fairy was a starter god of capitalism. You have something, someone else wants it. It may be something that you find completely useless, although it has value to someone else. So she did put her tooth under the pillow, but she slept with me, and we both went into her room together in the morning to see what had transpired over the night. A year or so later, I was sitting in a chair reading the paper, and Milan walked up to me with her hands deliberately behind her back. She said, "What is this?" Then, when she said the word "this," she dramatically revealed a baggie she'd been hiding behind her back and waved it in front of my nose. I had saved her teeth. I felt odd throwing them away. I figured maybe we'd make earrings out of them or buttons for a doll's dress. I don't know, something. But at this moment, I felt like I was on the witness stand. It appears to be a plastic bag with some small teeth in it, I stammered. Mom, are you the tooth fairy? Yes, I said. I wondered for a moment if she thought I was everyone's tooth fairy, the world's tooth fairy, but she didn't. Milan went on. You were the one who took my teeth and gave me the money. Yes, I did. And are you Santa Claus? Yes, I am. She seemed very proud of herself, and I was relieved. I was glad all this nonsense was over. But it wasn't. When the next Christmas arrived, Milan asked, what if I believe in Santa? If I believe in him, then isn't he real? Not really, I said. But if you want to believe in Santa, go right ahead. It was a little awkward. She started saying things like, oh, I hope Santa knows how good I am. She wrote a letter to Santa and actually wanted to mail it. I went along with all of it. I felt a little creepy, like we were an old, bored married couple who had to dress up in outfits to spice things up. I pretended with her, but I was gulping back reluctance and grimacing. I kept trying to get myself going, thinking, this is up my alley. I'm an actress. Let's just go for it. But I don't think that I was all that convincing. But then I realized that she also wanted to reenact finding out that Santa was not real, too. We would drive around town and she'd say, how could those reindeer fly? And I would have to come up with some semi-believable sounding answer that we both knew was fabricated. Finally, I got sick of it. And one day when she asked, I mean, how can Santa, who is so fat, fit down the chimney? I said, look, Milan, if you want to believe in Santa, go ahead. But I think it's a little bit like believing in God. You just have to do it and not ask a lot of questions. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it. Thank you. Thank you so much.